And away we go. It is the Aftermath, brought to you by Mio's Pizza right here on BearcatJournal.com. As always, we are live from the Cincy Light Studios. It's a tough one, but the Bearcats fall 81-70 on the road in Ames. Congratulations to the Cyclones and their three friends wearing stripes. But we will get to that. Brought to you, like I said, by Mio's. Go visit our good friends at Mio's. Anytime you're up and around campus, they will get you taken care of. They have outstanding pizza. They have great steak hoagies. I love the wedge fries. Great appetizers. Try the pretzel balls. They are wonderful. And, of course, lots of cold beverages, anything you can think of, including ice cold Cincy Light on tap. All right, let's get this show on the road, Keegan. It was there's a lot to process from today. This might be one of our longer ones because there's a lot to talk about. Aaron is doing some family stuff tonight, so he couldn't make it. So Keegan Nickoson, live from the watch party at the Holy Grail, is joining us. I want to thank everybody that showed up for the watch party. It was a great crowd. They were into it. Everybody's having a good time. But Bearcats couldn't get it done. I will go first on this. They did not lose the game because of the officiating. They lost the game because they weren't good enough on the defensive glass, especially. They lost the game because they were a little sloppy with the ball late. And that led to Iowa State being able to pull away. But that was as poorly officiated a game as I have seen in a long, long time. And it's not why they lost. So I don't want to hear the making excuses, but it is a factor in the game. It is a factor in the outcome when you have the two guys that were playing the best to me throughout the game, Jizzle James, Dylan Mitchell. Both were playing their asses off and playing well. And then you get to the right around the under 16 stop, the first stop in the second half, Jizzle James picks up his third foul. And then shortly after that, Dylan Mitchell picks up his third foul. And then by the time you get to the under 12, it was in between the under 12 and the under 8, they both pick up their fourth fouls. And it just changed everything about how the game was played. And that is the officials impacting a game. The thing that we always talk about here, and this is Aaron's thing much more than mine, so I'm not going to take full credit for it, but call the game equally both ways. Iowa State is one of the most aggressive defensive teams in the country. You're telling me they just didn't foul today on a Cincinnati team that was driving, that was trying to get downhill, and every time Iowa State got north-south, there was a foul call. You had a great stat as we were leaving the Grail about number of free throws shot on the season. Go ahead.
Iowa State shot 30 free throws. The next best team in terms of most free throws in the game was Arizona with 21. And Iowa State shot 21 free throws in the second half alone. 4 of them were for technicals, of which were
Wes walked away from Tony Padilla, and Tony Padilla gave him a technical. And then Josh Reed just does a simple, out of frustration. He wasn't yelling at the officials. That is the last guy that's ever going to cause a scene. He was mad at himself for fouling. And he pounds his fist on the table as mild-manneredly as you can possibly pound a fist on a table.
It was a hard pound, but it wasn't out of malintent.
Right.
It was.
You get 4 free throws there. The double technical on Aziz, and I can't remember who it was called on for Iowa State. It was
Their big man Jackson, I think Dion.
Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah,
Deshaun Jackson. Yeah, Deshaun Jackson. I just, it doesn't sit well because that is a team that played its guts out. They got down 12 early. They clawed back. They go into halftime tied. They're scratching and fighting and clawing against one of the best teams in the country. The offense looked good against an elite defense. That's one of the things that we really wanted to see. Without the aid of probably another 6-8 points if the game was called fairly by going to the free throw line. You had a team that could have been over 75, up near 80 in this game if the game was called fairly. So Cincinnati lost this game because they didn't do some of the little things that you need to do well enough to go in and get a victory at a place like Iowa State. But they were also robbed of a chance to find out what this game could look like in the final 5 minutes because they had an officiating crew that, I'm just going to say it, was fucking terrible. Those two things can be mutually exclusive. It doesn't have to be the officials were bad. That's why Cincinnati lost the game, because I don't believe that's the case. I don't think they played well enough. But I have to ask, maybe they weren't as good on the glass in the second half because of the way the game was being officiated, because of the foul trouble that was accumulating on their best players. Dylan Mitchell can't afford to get a defensive rebounding foul at that point in the game to give him his fourth or fifth foul. He was playing great.
Yeah.
So it sucks that you saw a team go into that atmosphere and play their guts out. They fought like hell. They weren't perfect. There were many things that we'll get to in this podcast that weren't good enough. But they did deserve a chance to see what it was going to look like at the end. And I believe that was taken away by an officiating crew that had a terrible day.
I also think it's a very easy thing to look at a game. Like if you want to see if there was a game where the refs inserted themselves into it, you have no punches thrown, no malicious plays at all in terms of player on player. Yet you had 5 technical fouls and 2 players fouled out. Like you have the double technical on Aziz and Deshaun. You have the technical on Josh, technical on Keyshawn Gilbert, and the technical on Wes. And you have 2 UC players fouled out. And there were no punches thrown.
Right. There wasn't even a skirmish. Like nobody was even in anybody's face.
No.
What are we doing?
So yeah, but it was the little plays that just sneak up on you of not boxing out, and then how many of those easy offensive board putbacks did Iowa State have? Probably that's what 8 points came off of, just immediate putback layups.
Yeah,
from not boxing out.
Blank, grab it, lay it up. Like guy standing unabated. Either he fought and got in front of a Cincinnati defender, or whoever was supposed to box him out just didn't, and the ball comes right to him. Lay it up and in. Like that was at least 8, probably 12 points, it felt like. 17-2 was the second chance points. That's gigantic. That's
You're also
gigantic.
Never gonna win on the road in the Big 12 if that's a stat.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, the other thing was they forced Iowa State into 18 turnovers, Keegan. They got 13 points. Cincinnati turned it over 14 times, 11 in the second half. 18 Iowa State points. So Iowa State wins points, or 20 Iowa State points off turnovers, 13 Cincinnati points off turnovers. So they win points off turnovers by 7, even though you force 4 more turnovers. And they win second chance points 17-2. They win bench points 31-9. They win paint points 30-18. Like honestly, the more you look at the stats, probably should have got 20 balled in this game. That shows how much grit they played with in a lot of other areas. Yeah. But ultimately, refs aside, now we've bitched about the refs. That's out of the way. They just didn't play well enough over 40 minutes to win a game like this, Keegan. That's ultimately period, point blank, end of story.
Tied for the
We'll have the Dan conversation, guys. We will have the Dan conversation. Calm down. It's coming. Like, there's an order that we have to do things here. We're getting to it.
Tied for the most turnovers Iowa State has committed this season.
Yeah.
And the last that they committed 18 was the 80-61 loss to Kansas State at Hilton on February 1st.
They got blown out.
It just speaks to how good of a coach TJ Otterberger is and how good that defensive scheme is, that Jizzle has 17 at the half and finishes with 25.
Yeah.
And, it's playing him into foul trouble. It's attacking him and just controlling him offensively. Because it wasn't like he was taking bad shots in the second half. That was more Day-Day. I don't know if you agree with that. Day-Day, he took a gutsy 3 in the first half that he made, but then there were some head scratches.
Well, that was a shot clock.
Half.
That was a shot clock.
Yeah.
He didn't have a choice. He had to hoist this one. Go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, but
you're
it's
out. You're done. You tapping out.
No, I'm looking through you get 2 points from Tyler Betsy, which I don't think he played all that much. And then, like you said, we're going to have the Dan conversation. Just turnovers at bad times, and running straight into screens and giving Iowa State threes to carry momentum and go on runs. So,
he just looks like he is the most lost human on the planet defensively. Like, his scouting report defense, his footwork, the attention to detail stuff defensively is dreadful right now. He is helping you at times. He didn't do it today, but like, you've had a couple spurts from him in the last 3 games where at least you got like 4 or 5 minutes of him doing something on offense. That didn't happen today. He was just terrible today. Terrible.
And it's all, which I don't know how much people care about this, but it's just kind of a headspace mindset thing that I feel that some players should have. But when Dylan fouled out, he sat down next to Dan, and Dan was like kind of smiling and laughing and holding a towel over.
Yeah, I don't know what was said. Like, was something funny said? Like, if something funny was said. Maybe Dylan said something about the refs and Dan laughed. Like, I don't hold guys too accountable for that, because I don't I don't know exactly. Like, look, we got plenty to worry about.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna worry. That's not one of them.
What was it a Cardinals player that like went off on a reporter for asking him why he was laughing in the second half?
Yeah.
Down like 20. He just
Dan played 14 minutes. He was minus 10. That's dreadful. In a game you lost by 11. And a lot of it was on him. Like, teams have figured it out, Keegan. He can't defend. So they're just going at him every time he's on the floor, because he's got no shot to make a play. No shot to make a play.
Yeah. Tyler Betsy played 5 more minutes than him.
Yeah.
That
played 14 minutes. Like,
imagine coming into this season and saying, when they go to Iowa State, Tyler Betsy is going to play 5 more minutes than Dan. And it's not because Dan was hurt or that he fouled out.
Yeah. There is something very concerning. I don't know if you listened to the postgame show on the way home.
I did not.
Seamus got hurt. That's why he was not in towards the end of the
grabbing
game.
His right shoulder.
His shoulder. Which.
Same one.
Yeah. That's concerning, because then you're getting thin. Look, I know people have had a problem with Seamus. We have talked about it a bunch. His impact on the game is greater than just his number of points because of how much attention defenses have to pay to him. If you lose him for any period of time, especially a shooter with a right shoulder injury, a shooting shoulder injury, that's a huge concern, because we are in the home stretch, right? There are 6 games left. You need to go 5-1. It would be very detrimental to this team to have to do that without Seamus for any portion of that stretch.
Is it Josh into the starting lineup if he has to miss time? Or is it Betsy?
I don't know how it's. I mean, the fear is it's Dan.
Dan. The
Um,
fear is.
I think it would have to be Josh. Like the way he's playing right now, he hit 2 more threes today. The Josh Reed star turn is wild. Like the Holy Grail was going nuts anytime Josh.
Oh my
Josh
gosh!
steal,
No, you have to bring up its first 3.
So,
This is awesome.
They obviously, if you're at home watching, the Baylor West Virginia game goes into overtime. So the Cincinnati game didn't come on until like 5 minutes remaining. It didn't go on ESPN2 until like 5 minutes remaining in the half. So at the Holy Grail, they turned on ESPN Plus and had the game on the 2 big screens on ESPN Plus, which was great. They changed over to ESPN, which was like 30 seconds, 45 seconds ahead of the TV broadcast as Josh let the ball go. The ball was in the air on his first made 3, and it goes gray because they're switching it over to ESPN2. And like he shot it, and everybody went, eh! And then gray. What the? And then by the time they switched it, the points were already on the board. So then everybody half-hearted resumed the cheer. Yes, the Holy Grail.
Oh my gosh.
But
amazing.
it was hilarious. Josh, he got a steal, everybody went nuts. He got an offensive rebound, everybody went nuts. He made a 3, everybody tried to go nuts, but they kind of missed it. He did make another one where the place erupted again. Watching him become a fan favorite is awesome. I love it. It's so funny. I mean, I kind of feel the exact same way, Jason. It can't be that bad. I'm sorry. You can't have a game at this level with as much as on the line for both teams and have the officiating be that bad. Iowa State's playing for a 2 seed, a 1 seed. Cincinnati's fighting for their life to get in the tournament. And the officiating is that fucking awful. Like, it's unbelievable.
Chad wants to say it wasn't. That's its problem.
I am saying it is. I'm also saying Cincinnati didn't do the things that you need to do well enough to win a game in Ames, Iowa. That's just, unfortunately, that's the reality.
I think Sean is mixing up Hail Marys and the Holy Grail.
Yeah, Sean, Hail Mary is in Cheviot. The Holy Grail is on the banks right across from Great American Ballpark. I was really impressed, Keegan, the way that they rebounded defensively after the first 8 or 9 minutes. I mean, they took the haymaker of haymakers from Iowa State. They were shooting 75%, 75%, 100% over the first 10 minutes of the game. And it was like, if they don't figure out something defensively, they're going to get boat raced. And other than a bunch of bullshit foul calls, I thought they were a lot better towards the end of the first half and then into the majority of the second half. I thought defensively they really picked it up and made things frustrating for Iowa State. That's also why Iowa State getting the offensive rebounds they did was so frustrating, because they were getting first ball stops. They were getting the plays necessary to stop Iowa State and get the ball back, but they weren't closing out the play. And that's backbreaking. When you're playing good defense, you get a missed shot and then, layup. Like, shit. I'm cussing a lot tonight.
Yeah. It's I mean, Wes said it in his post game. He felt like the first 8 to 9 minutes, they didn't know what they were doing defensively. And it took him so long to adjust to the environment and to adjust to Iowa State's like solid guard play. But I mean, it's just such a different team than we'd been watching over the past month, because it's like you said, we were sitting at the Grail. This team would have folded after that first 12-point deficit in the first half, or whatever it was in the first half when it got kind of out of hand. And they basically just took the punch. I think it was West called a timeout, and then they went on a 24-12 run to end the half. So it still can give some hope to fans for the rest of the Big 12 slate. I think Houston, this isn't the hardest team you have to play the rest of the way, because you have to go to Houston at the end of the year. But if you can get that effort out of this guys against teams like West Virginia and TCU, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, and maybe even Baylor at home, that might be able to get you to a decent win number and give yourself a case, maybe not needing 3 wins in the Big 12 tournament this time around. So there's definitely some positives to take away from it. It's just it just speaks to how important it is to play to your identity of rebounding. But it's also hard when another team has that identity and they're super, super physical and super, super talented in that same area. So
that, I mean, you played into their hands on that front, because you have to. That's why they're so difficult to beat, is because their physicality isn't, it's a lot like Houston, but their physicality is their identity is rebounding. Yeah. Iowa State's physicality is offense, defense, rebounding. Like that's what has elevated them into the status of one of the better programs in the country right now. And you have to be ready for it. You have to be ready to give max effort on the glass, on loose balls, on all the little 50-50 stuff that can swing a game. And we're just not seeing it. In stretches, they had gotten better for a couple games, but it's like I talked about, Keegan, on focusing on something in practice, right? Like they focused hard on rebounding in practice for a couple days because they had been getting killed on the glass. Well, then the defense slipped a little bit. So then the last couple days they practiced hard on defense. I thought the defense, outside of that first initial flurry from Iowa State, like I said, I thought the defense played well, but then you struggle on the glass. Like, this team has got to get to a point where they're not so wildly affected by, this is the key critical talking point going into this game. You can't let the other stuff slip because you're focusing on this. You still have to get a body on somebody. You still have to be aggressive. You still have to make the play in order to close out the defensive possession. There's just too many possessions that should have been closed out that didn't. And if you do that, then Iowa State's in that 65 to 70 point range, brother. Like that's we talked about that. That's where you had to keep them. You did not want them getting above 75. And you let them get to 81. And like I said, without question, some of that is due to the way the game was called. But it also was because those second chance points were killer.
Yeah, it's just you have to take care of the little stuff, especially on the road in such a big environment. And what was the spread? Did we ever get that?
11.5.
Wow. Great teams. Great teams, Chad.
Good teams win. Great teams cover.
So it's also, I mean, I guess Iowa State was kind of floating from a 6 to 8 point lead the majority of the second half.
Not the majority of the second half. The majority of the final 10 minutes after Jizzle and Dylan were called for their fourth fouls.
Yeah.
It was 4 with 10 minutes left. Seamas made a 3, cut it to 4 with 10 minutes left.
I think that's one of the bigger things is that they didn't really shy away from what UC wanted to do offensively, even against a really good defensive team in such a tough environment.
Yeah.
Like Jizzle continued to show that he can be a really, really good offensive player. And now it's probably just making people mad that they didn't get to see this in January when they could have beat Utah and Kansas State and whatever lower tier Big 12 teams they lost to, because I lost count after a little bit.
Matt, you got to listen better. Nobody said rebounding was their identity. I said rebounding was the focus going into the Utah game because they had been getting beat so bad on the glass. So they focus on it. They dominate Utah on the glass. Then they have to shore up their defense because the defense wasn't good against Utah, and they slip again when it comes to the rebounding because the focus was on playing great defense. Like they've got to get to a point where they can handle multiple of those things being good at the same time. Right now, they're not doing it. Right now, it's inconsistent. Keegan said it earlier. Fine. Blame Keegan. That's fine with me.
That's what they want to do. That's what I'm saying.
They're not doing it.
Yeah. That's what West preaches and wants his team to do is rebound. I'm not saying that they're a great rebounding team, but that's what they want their identity to be.
Yeah, they should be, but they haven't been. That's the frustrating part. That's the frustrating part. Yeah, one I did want to talk about offensively, Keegan. You put up 70 on this team. You're playing pretty good offense. And that's what we were worried about, right? We didn't want to see them stagnate. They played bad offenses or bad defenses. They built some momentum. You couldn't revert back to 54 points against Iowa State. And they didn't do that. I was impressed by and large with the offense today.
Yeah. What did they shoot from three? 40%? And 5 of those was Jizzles. So he's had multiple games in this 4-game stretch where he's made over 5 threes. It's a complete 180 from what he was doing earlier in the year, and especially earlier in Big 12 play. Like I said before, Day-Day's kind of shot selection was a little iffy at times. He goes 1 for 6 from 3. Dan had an air ball. I mean, we talked about Day-Day's air ball at the end, chance to cut it to 4, wide open, misses by like 4 feet.
Yeah.
That's just stuff that just can't happen. And it's not like saying that you have to make them, but it's brutal. Betsy didn't get a 3 up in 19 minutes, which is concerning, but
yeah, I mean, teams are going to start taking that away. He's going to there was somebody on him every time he caught the ball. And that's what a great defensive team is going to do, right? They're going to identify, okay, this is their guy they bring off the bench to give him a lift, and they're going to try to take him away. I thought they did a pretty good job of taking Tyler away where he didn't catch with much airspace today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't get the benefit of anything offensively driving to the rim. Like they got bumped, and it's not that I thought Iowa State was egregiously fouling Cincinnati's drives to the rim, Keegan. It's that I thought that the things that were being called on one end weren't being called on the other. And that's where you get frustrated with officiating.
What was the total foul disparity?
Cincinnati committed 24 fouls. They usually commit 13 is their average. And Iowa State committed 13 fouls the entire game. Give me a fuck. And 2 of those were technicals. 2 of those weren't fouls. 2 of those were technicals. So 11 fouls on a team that's known for their ultra aggressive style of defense. Get the fuck out of here.
Let's see, what are their numbers for fouls in a game this season? They committed 21 against Dayton.
That was also probably the game they were most aggressive defensively all season. I thought they fouled Dayton a little bit more. I thought they fouled Dayton a lot, but that was by design.
They've committed 11 or less fouls twice this season.
Yeah.
I just think it should be a good rule of thumb that if two players in the same team foul out and no one on the other team fouls out, the ref should take a hard look at that game to see.
Have either of those guys fouled out all year?
I don't think so. There hasn't been a lot of UC players fouled out.
And two guys foul out in the same game that don't foul a lot, like are not guys that foul a bunch. Jizzle's not a guy that plays defense with two hands. Like when Tyler Betsy fouls, I know Tyler Betsy has fouled because he's gone from one hand to putting his second hand on a guy almost every time. That's almost every foul that is called on Tyler Betsy is for that reason. That is not how Jizzle James plays defense. He does not play defense with his hands. So if he doesn't do that, then where are the fouls coming from? His fifth foul, he couldn't have fouled a ghost on that call. He didn't touch anybody. It's hard to foul somebody when you don't touch anybody. They played downhill today, Ben. Like it's game by game. They played downhill, and Iowa State was not called for the fouls in the second half that Cincinnati was called for.
It's a conspiracy.
It's not a conspiracy. It's just the officials had a bad day. They did not have a good game. Oh, you guys are going off the deep end.
I think it hurts so much more for a lot of people because the first half, like a lot of people went into this game saying, you know what, whatever happens, like, and then the first half happens and everyone's like, we're going to freaking win. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And then you get your soul stolen in the second half by the referees, and it just hurts that much more.
I mean, 7-14, the Josh Reed 3, his second 3, cut it to 4. And that's the closest that it got because you have guys that can't be aggressive. There was a foul called on almost every trip, it felt like, from there. You know, I'm tired of talking about the officials, though. Nothing you can do. You got to be better on the glass. Like if they think they're going to go to Houston and let Houston be their daddy on the glass, 37-19, 19 rebounds is embarrassing, Keegan. 19 rebounds is in a game. 1 rebound every 2 minutes. That's, there's usually if a team shoots like 60%, there's at least some reasoning for you didn't get a chance to get a lot of rebounds. Cincinnati missed 29 shots. They had 5 offensive rebounds. Iowa State missed 25 shots, and Cincinnati only had 14 defensive rebounds. Like, that's getting your ass kicked on the glass on both ends of the floor in every way imaginable.
Fewest rebounds this season.
Yeah.
They had more against Kansas. Well, they had 39 against Kansas because there were so many misses.
We don't have. I'm done. I'm done. Like, if you think that team didn't play hard today, you don't belong in this chat. Like, there's other channels that you can go talk to them. The team played its ass off today. They were bad on the glass. We're calling them out for being bad on the glass. But in every other aspect, they fought hard. The 4-point game with 7 minutes left. Was I impressed by any Iowa State players in particular?
Curtis Jones.
I mean, I love Curtis Jones. He didn't have a great game. I thought they did a great job defending him for the most part, but he got to the line 12 times. So he's 4 of 13 from the floor, 2 of 8 from 3, and ends up with 22 points. Momcilovic was really good. Lipsy had those 2 threes back to back in the first half that pushed them up to the 12-point lead, but he didn't do a whole lot after that, Keegs.
No.
I thought shut him down quite a bit.
He had a backbreaker 3 in the second half.
Yeah. But he had no assists. 31 minutes, no assists for Lipsy. That's your defense playing well on him. Jefferson's really good. 5 of 9 from the floor. 7 rebounds, 13 points. But, I thought they got what they needed, the type of game they needed outside of the free throw disparity. I thought they got the type of game they needed to win in Ames.
Yeah. They didn't shoot, like Iowa State didn't shoot it that particularly well. Wes said it. Like he thought they forced him into some misses and gave them a chance. And they were turning the ball over. And it's like you said, points off turnovers, second chance points. If you want to win a tough road game, those are 2 really easy ways to do it. So you get the turnovers, you don't capitalize, and then you just get bodied on second chance points.
But if you said Cincinnati's going to shoot, they're going to make 11 threes. They're going to shoot 46% from the game. They're going to go 81% at the free throw line, slashing 46, 40, 81. They're going to turn Iowa State over 18 times. I would have felt pretty good about their chances to win. But ultimately, second chance points, not converting the points off turnovers. I think that's one that a lot of people aren't going to discuss a whole lot, Keegan. But I think that one was critical. I think some of that, though, only 7 steals on 18 turnovers. So a lot of their turnovers weren't of the live ball variety, where you got to take the ball out, you got to get it up the floor, then you got to run your offense and work to score from there. They didn't get a lot of, as a former coach who just beat Indiana last night, used to call them turnovers for touchdowns. Didn't get a lot of those. So that hurts. So you turn them over, but they didn't capitalize nearly enough on those turnovers to really make it super interesting in the end.
I have a stat. When do you think what year, if you had to guess how long it's been since they had less than 20 rebounds in a game?
How long it's been since they've had less than 20 rebounds in a game? 2021.
2014.
Wow.
Guess who it was against?
Iowa State.
Houston.
Yeah, there you go.
They won by 13. UC won by 13.
They made a bunch of shots, and there weren't a whole lot of rebounds to go get.
That's Mr. Hotboard to you, Ed. His name's not Mick Cronin. It's Mr. Hotboard.
Brian, I disagree. I thought they looked like the number 10 team in the country. They're one of those. They do enough to get things done. That's kind of their MO. They
didn't play great. They won by double digits against the team that's been playing very well as of late.
Yeah.
They might not be a national title contender like I thought they might have been, but
I think they're still an Elite 8 type team.
Yeah.
National title contender. It's Auburn and Duke, bro.
Did Auburn win today?
Those 2 teams, huh?
Did Auburn win today, or did Alabama win?
No, they won comfortably.
Oh, okay.
And they were up 11 at halftime and kind of cruised. They Alabama's really good, so they could have come back at any point in time. But in Tuscaloosa, that Auburn team goes in and wins pretty comfortably. Yeah. I think Auburn and Duke have separated themselves from the field fairly considerably.
Could be a hot take, but I like when Duke is good.
I think
it's kind of entertaining.
If they get that same ref crew, Iowa State has a shot at the national title.
That's a good one. That's a great one. Very good.
That's one of the frustrating things about that is, Keegan, though, is Tony Padilla is usually a pretty good ref. he's not on my list of like, this guy sucks every time you see him.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell the deal was today. I don't really know Robert Felder and Chris Paskey. So maybe they were the difference. But I thought Tony is usually pretty good.
How are you feeling about their next 2 to 3 games?
I hate the term must win. You have to win Wednesday. Like, if you can't beat West Virginia at West Virginia, this is a good West Virginia team. It's not a great West Virginia team. The way the offense has improved since that first West Virginia game, you have got to go into Morgantown and beat West Virginia. If you can do that, then you can start thinking about what might be. If you can't do that, then it's over, and you need to get a couple wins to get into the Crown or the NIT.
You can't put yourself in a position to have to beat Houston at Houston. Right. At the end of the day, you can beat West Virginia, TCU, Baylor, and lose to Houston, beat Kansas State, Oklahoma State, and be in a pretty good spot going into the Big 12 tournament.
If they go 5-1, I think they're in. Like, even if it's just Houston that they don't beat, like, you're going to beat Baylor in that scenario. You're going to beat West Virginia in that scenario. You're going to beat the hottest team in the country right now, which is Kansas State in that scenario. Like, those are 3 wins that are going to significantly help your resume in terms of when you're comparing it to teams that are also on the bubble. Yeah. Like, if they go 5-1, I think they're in. 4-2, I don't think is good enough. Like, I don't think that's going to get the job done without like a run to the Big 12 finals or, something of that nature. But
now we're talking about, they could be without CMOS.
That's critical. Like, that's going to matter a lot. That's going to matter a lot. Like,
it's the same thing you say about Aziz. Like, a lot of people just look at CMOS and see he's not making 4 threes. Like, okay, he's not that big of a deal. But it's like defenses account for him because they know how dangerous he can be, kind of thing.
Colorado got their first win.
Go Tad Boyle.
Let's go.
He deserves it.
I don't care that that's going to drop UCF to a quad 2. I wish nothing but the worst for them.
Tad Boyle's players finally started listening to him.
Yeah,
those quotes.
They won by
those
13
quotes after the game.
Yeah. What's a reasonable seed for the Bearcats in the conference tournament? I don't know at this point.
They're going to be right on the line of playing on Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah.
If it shakes out how I think it can.
Colorado had 52 rebounds. Holy shit. You think they could have loaned Cincinnati like 12 of those? They only needed 40. Like, the Bearcats could have used another 12. 13-point win for the Buffs. That's crazy. Yeah, Brendan, I wouldn't mind seeing Josh get his shot at the starting lineup. I do love him as the ultimate kind of glue piece off the bench. But if you're going to argue anybody deserves a spot in the starting lineup, like, how could you not argue Josh Reed deserves a spot in the starting lineup? That dude has balled his ass out. That's the other thing, Graybush. 5 of the 6 teams they play are ahead of them right now in the conference championship or in the conference standings.
I'd say 3 of them are playing better basketball than UC has. Houston, Baylor, Kansas State.
I don't think Baylor's playing great basketball. I think but not since they lost Ojinawa or Ojanua, whatever. I can't. Like, they are compromised in the front court. Your favorite player in the Big 12, Norchad Omier, is still great, but now they don't have any size next to him at all. Like, it is very guard heavy. Very guard heavy. Yeah, that's what we're talking about, Bram. let's go player by player and call it a night. Keegs. We will start with Jizzle James. Ties his career high again with 25, 9 of 16 from the floor, 5 of 9 from 3, 2 of 2 from the line, had 1 rebound, had 2 assists, 5 fouls. He did turn it over 5 times. You're going to have some turnovers against Iowa State. Like I said, I thought they were a little careless in the final 6-7 minutes, but some of that you're down and you're trying to maybe force things a little bit more than you should. But again, if they got this Jizzle James in January, they're in the NCAA tournament. Like, it's not even a question. They're playing to move up in the field, not playing, to come from out of nowhere to play their way in. He has been outstanding for 2 weeks now.
Yeah, they beat Kansas State. They beat Utah. I don't know how you look at BYU and West Virginia. Maybe they beat Kansas at home.
They wouldn't have beat BYU at BYU.
Yeah, but it's just weird because how he was playing kind of filtered into the rest of the team and then just got them all down. But yeah, he was really, really good in the first half. I remember he just kept on scoring. And then at halftime, I looked at the iPad that we had sitting there at the table and I said, he had 17 in the first half. He just can't get past 25. I think he's had 25 like 2 of the last 3 games or something like that. But I think
his low in the last 3 games is 24, right? He's had 24, 25, and 25.
I think so, yeah. The 3-point shooting is the biggest thing with him because it allows him to get to so much more stuff. I guess you could also say the biggest thing is him actually making the shot that he shoots all the time, which is the mid-range. But it's just such a spark, and it's you can't get that from anyone else. Like Jizzle has to perform for this team. There can be other people that can't perform very well, and they can somehow scrape by and win games. But as we saw, if Jizzle doesn't play well, it's not good.
Yeah. Brendan, I'm curious, how old are you? He says Jizzle's probably the best ball-dominant player UC has had in at least my time of watching UC basketball. He needs a dominant big to complement him bad. I don't disagree with that. I think a really good 4 or a 5 you can throw the ball to on the block would help him out quite a bit. I'm just curious how old you are because I got a couple
That
names.
means he started watching UC in 2023, maybe 2021. Is the Julius better than Jizzle on ball?
No.
Okay. I didn't know. I didn't watch a lot of him. But Jaron was, Jacob Evans was, Sean Kilpatrick.
I might, if Jizzle keeps it up, I'd have Jizzle at least up there with Jake. Sean was better. Jaron was better. Logan, obviously.
Well, I mean, that's getting down there.
You know who maybe was the most ball dominant, who was the best, most ball dominant player I've seen at UC? And it's unfortunate we only got to see him do it for 1 year.
Lance?
No. Anybody want to guess? Best ball dominant player, but he only played at UC for 1 year. Not Lance.
I don't know.
Nailed it.
Downey.
Devin Downey. You
don't even know who that. Don't even know.
Okay, you have a homework assignment tonight, Keegan. Just go to YouTube and type in Devin Downey and watch Devin Downey highlights from after he left UC. Oh my God, Devin Downey was unbelievable.
You know the name that just kept on coming in my head when you
pause. Technical. Keegan got teed. You're not allowed to do that, Keegan.
I kept on thinking of Logan Johnson, but I was like, he barely ever had the ball in his hands. So
Oh boy,
You're the worst.
Yeah. Go watch Devin Downey in South Carolina.
All
He
right.
was unbelievable, dude.
What class was that?
So he would have been 2006 recruiting class, 2005, 6 recruiting class. He played on Andy Kennedy's team with Eric Hicks and James White and then transferred out when Mick got hired. But oh my God, Devin was fun.
Yeah, the year I started watching was after Lance. The year after Lance.
Okay. You're right, Drew. Huggs finally got his dominant point guard, and then he was gone. Like, oh my God, Devin Downey was so fun, man. So fun. He's like 5'7", and he was so fast. You just couldn't do anything with him. And he was tough as shit. Got me excited. Devin Downey. Devin Downey talk in the chat. I love it. Thank you guys. Let's go play. I mean, we still had we're Jizzle. We're on Jizzle. He was awesome. It was awesome. Let's see. He had the best plus minus of the starters. The only person that had a better plus minus than him was Tyler, who was +1 in 19 minutes. Jizzle -2 in 27 minutes. Just kind of shows the struggle of this game, as they could just never really pull away. They could never get out in front and
that's what I kept on saying in the second half. I was like, just a 5-0 run right here. It'll make a big difference. Put some pressure on.
All you could talk about in the second half was just that one 5-0 run.
5-0 run. Get a 3.
5-0 run. They couldn't get it. Day, 13 points. He's 4 of 13 from the floor, 1 of 6 from 3. 4 of 5 from the free throw line. He had 4 assists, 2 turnovers. Didn't have a rebound. Rebounding again, like it's a group effort, and they did not do it well as a group. 4 fouls, -7 in 33 minutes. I thought he was okay. I thought at the start, both of them, Jizzle and Day, were looking like they were going to have one of those games where they combined for 40, 45 points, but it didn't happen. And I thought they needed him in that second half to be a little better when Jizzle got the third and then got the fourth. I thought they needed him to step up there, and he wasn't able to do it, but I did think he played well. I don't have an issue with how Day played. I just would like to have seen maybe a second gear where if he got up to 16, 17, 18 points, then it could have got really interesting down the stretch.
Yeah. The air ball late puts a bad image in your mind.
Yeah.
But he made some big shots. I mean, 13 points from him, that's really all you can ask for out of mainly a point guard who's out there to play lockdown defense. I'll
ask you this. Drew wants to know, was Day shooting due to bad shots, fatigue, or both? I think he took some good shots. I think he took a couple late clock threes that weren't great, but I think he missed 1 or 2 that were just open. And I thought Iowa State got beat a lot on the rescreen, Keegan. Like they would screen left, and then they would rescreen to the middle. And Jizzle and Day got a bunch of jumpers out of that. Jizzle made them, Day didn't. I didn't think he took a lot of bad shots. I just don't think he connected on as many as he could have today. Baseball update: leading Duke 2-1 in the top of the 5th. You were captivated last night, Keegan.
Me about baseball?
Yeah.
It's very exciting.
Big win. Let's see if they can get another one. Win the series. Trying to win the series against the number 11 team in the country tonight. That's the type of thing. I'll just say this on baseball. I'm sure we will talk about it Monday quite a bit on the BBP. This is the type of thing, if they can close this out today, come selection time, it holds a lot of weight. That you went to Durham and won a series against Duke. Like, if you can put yourself in position, that's the type of thing that helps get you in.
You know what would be awesome?
Sorry.
if they hosted a regional. That would be awesome.
It would be. Keeping it moving. Aziz, 10 points, 4 of 5 from the floor, 2 of 2 from the line, only 3 rebounds. He had the only second chance points late in the game. 2 turnovers, 2 blocks, 2 steals, -8 in 32 minutes. I thought Aziz played well. I know people get frustrated with it's one of those, feels like every time something happens that can be attributed to Aziz, people hone in on it, but they don't talk about the other stuff that he does well. He had a couple finishes around the rim that weren't dunks, that he was able to kind of get the angle and get the bucket. Made 2 key free throws, although one of them he missed, and Iowa State had a lane violation, and then he knocked down the second opportunity at the second free throw. I'll take 10 points from Aziz all day. The 3 rebounds, as we talked about Wednesday, whenever that was.
After the game was Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday. How aggressive he was going and snatching rebounds. I didn't feel like he had that same tenacity to get rebounds today.
Yeah, obviously there's nuance, but there might be a part of it where it's just, look, you're the biggest guy on the court. You've obviously shown that you can play with great effort. Just need a few more. Like I feel like his worst rebounding day has to be 5 or 6. It can't really get down to where it's 3.
Well, there are times where I don't mind it if he's the guy that's doing the work,
clearing out
and guards are coming down and wings are coming in and grabbing rebounds. That wasn't the case today. That was not the case today. So he doesn't get that protection today because nobody did a good job. They got their ass kicked on the glass. So nobody gets good marks for rebounding today. Seamas with 9, 3 of 6 from 3, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 turnover, -11 in 24 minutes. And now we wait. How bad is the shoulder injury? Is it something that he can try to fight through? How does it change a guy that, look, Keegan, how long's it been since he had 3 threes in a game? We were on the verge. We were on the cusp of talking about, okay, Seamas is coming back. We're going to get, that run that we kind of saw from him at this point in time last year when he really started to get going. And then he hurts his shoulder, missed. I don't know when he came out for the last time, but he did not go back in for the end of the game.
He's done it 3 times in Big 12 play. He had 3 against Colorado, 3 today, 4 at BYU. The last time he did it before that was Dayton.
Ouch. The last time he came out was with 6:02 left in the game and did not play the final 6 minutes.
Not great, Bob.
Yeah. I was hoping it was the final 2 minutes, 3 minutes. I didn't see it, Jason. And we were at the Grail, so it's a lot harder to watch a game at the Grail, isn't it, Keegan?
Yeah.
I can do it. Football, I've got it down. Because football, you get some time in between plays. With as fast as basketball happens and the crowd, and it's a little more difficult. Plus, I've got Kelsey watching stat broadcast.
Literally gave him play-by-play the entire
in
time.
My ear the entire time, 30 seconds ahead of the TV feed. I love that kid.
Rebounding, not sexy. This team needs more not sexy. I think that would be a pretty good.
Not wrong. Not wrong, Sean.
Have you ever thought about coaching, Sean? I think you should get into coaching. There's a guy out west that I feel he'd like your philosophy.
Josh Reed, 6 points. He did not get another career high today, unfortunately, but he did hit a big 3 in the first half, a big 3 in the second half. He led the team in offensive rebounds with 2. He had 2 steals, played 23 minutes, was -9. I love watching Josh Reed play basketball. I want to yell at people for being late on Josh Reed, all the people that hated him prior to the last 2 weeks. But I'm just going to, Josh deserves the flowers. So I'm not going to yell at those people, and I'm going to let everybody in to the Josh Reed fan club. I'll let Kelsey back, too, if she wants to come back in.
The air ball barrage at the end of last season was kind of brutal.
Yeah.
It was like every 3 was an air ball. But, you see a lot of steals sometimes where the ball just the ball kind of ends up in the person's hands, or it's kind of like a bad dribble and then they kind of take it. His are legitimate, well executed steals of picking the player's pocket, jumping passes.
The one was, tapped it this way, and then he went bang bang and got it on the other side. He's just heady.
Yeah, he's very intelligent. He has great awareness, great court awareness. He's been playing very, very good basketball.
Yeah. Dylan with 4, 2 of 3 from the floor. He had 5 rebounds. I thought he was playing great defense. Tony Padilla and company disagreed. He had 1 block. He had 3 steals. Turned it over twice. There were 430 moving screens set in this game, and Dylan was the only one called for a foul. It was a moving screen. I'm not having a problem with that foul being called. I'm saying call all of them that happen, not just one every once in a while. I digress. What'd you think?
I thought Dylan had a good guy. He had a floater that looked good early, kind of a little hybrid jump shot floater, kind of showing the shot that he's been working on. Feel like they took him away on the lob pretty effectively, just because you didn't really see it. That was more of an Aziz thing today. So, but yeah, that was the fouls, man. It's brutal.
Wasn't great. Where are we at now? We are down to Tyler Betsy, 2 points, 19 minutes. Had the best plus minus on the team, +1. Only guy in positives. Didn't get a 3. I thought some of that was like I said, I just don't think Iowa State gave him any airspace. He didn't have any where he had, even some of the deep ones he's taking is because guys just aren't out up on him. But I thought he drove a couple times where it looked like his ball handling's getting a little bit more confident, especially against a team that loves to pressure the ball. But, now they're going to have to start finding a way to run a little bit of stuff for him, I think, Keegan. I don't think they're running anything for him right now. You have to find a way to run some stuff to get Betsy a shot at times.
Yeah, especially if CMOS isn't going to be in, but that's kind of obvious. It's not like they just sent him out there in that role and not. But I would like to see him get stuff designed for him, because I think he's a guy that can hit 3 to 4 threes in a game.
It's pure, man. It comes out of his hand. I expect it to go in.
Yeah, and if CMOS isn't going to be making those to the level that he needs to be making them, then Tyler would be the next best guy, especially if CJ isn't going to get in as much. This is something we haven't discussed.
Josh Reed would like a word, sir.
This is something we haven't discussed, and it kind of plays into Aziz only getting 3 boards, but AP got hurt and didn't come back in.
Yeah.
He got hurt early. He played 0 minutes because it was less than a minute, committed a foul, and then didn't come back in the rest of the game.
Yeah.
So
they said he got
could be down AP and
hit.
CMOS.
This is why you need depth, Keegan. It's not because you play 10 guys a game. I know, but that's what I'm saying. It's not because you play 10 guys a game. It's because when you play 20 games in 10 weeks, shit happens. And you're going to need every ounce of what you can salvage off of your bench Bottom 5, Duke 5, UC 2. So a little bit of a rough 5th inning for the Bearcats. We probably shouldn't have talked about them. As soon as we talked about them, things kind of went south.
It's your fault, Ronnie.
Probably. It's an interesting, maybe a dumb hypothetical, but what would Tyler McKinley's role be if he didn't suffer the ACL? I think it would be backup 5.
Yeah.
And I think he would be good at it because I think, they need somebody when they run the offense through the big out top that really can pass and be a facilitator. And Tyler can knock down a 3. Like, you don't want him shooting 4 threes a game, but if the defense is going to drop and leave him standing there, he can take and knock down that 3-point shot. I think he would have been the backup 5. I think he's probably more naturally a 4, but this team has like 8 power forwards. So I think that probably would have pushed him on this particular roster to more of a 5. But I think he would have been able to help quite a bit, for being honest. He was looking really good coming into the season. It's frustrating.
He also has the best offensive prowess out of all the bigs, would you say?
Yeah, at this stage. I think Page might have more upside, like because of his post. He's got the quick spin move. He's got the baby hooks right or left. But I think Tyler gives you more overall. Does he rebound? Yeah, he rebounds it pretty well. Let's see. Here we go. Dan Skillings, 0 for 3 from the floor, 0 of 2 from 3, 1 of 2 from the free throw line, 1 rebound, 2 assists, 2 turnovers. He did have a block. It's minus 10 in 14 minutes. The problem is, in order to be your best, you need to play him some because he has as much potential as anybody on the team. But you're almost to a point where you put him out there and you kind of see what Dan you have that night. And if you have bad Dan, he plays 3 minutes and you sit his ass and you don't look back. Like, he was dreadful defensively today, Keegan. Dreadful. This is where you talk about your observations.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the thing that sticks out to me the most is when he just ran straight into a very predictable screen and then Keyshawn Gilbert hit a 3. Wes had to call a timeout. It was just a big momentum play. Multiple bad turnovers that I saw. I think he had a airballed 2 and then didn't make a shot from the floor. 1 of 2 from the line. So it's not.
And the foul, I thought the foul was a bailout call. I didn't even think it was a good foul call, but at least it was consistent with how they were calling fouls in the second half, where he got a little contact and they called the foul.
Yeah.
That man is in a bad place. He is down bad, Keegan. Down bad.
Yeah, it's not good. It's kind of hard to even elaborate on or explain.
Jason, I wish I knew. I really wish I had an answer I could sit here. I've got theories. Everybody, I'm sure, got theories. I really wish I knew what's really going on with Dan. Because I've never seen anybody just lose all functional basketball skills so frequently the way that, but Vic got sick and lost weight and there was a reason, and then the fans booed the shit out of him, and that really impacted Vic mentally. There was a reason I think that Vic kind of had a bad month.
Yeah.
I can't make sense of this. For a guy it just looks like he's never played basketball before. Just simple, basic footwork, beating screens, shit that they work on every day. It's just out the window. It's just gone. And he's done it. Like, we talked about Jizzle a little bit. Like, I thought Jizzle, when he was in a slump, was doing the same Jizzle things. He just wasn't making shots. Like, he was lost his confidence. But I didn't feel like he forgot how to play basketball.
Yeah.
Dan, like, he looked like he legitimately 100% forgot how to play basketball. I don't know. Yeah, bad turnovers, bad shots, runs into screens, like all of it. All of it is just so bad right now. It doesn't make any sense. I would agree with that, Ben. The mid-range jumper he took up 3 was absolutely the worst shot we've taken all year. Ben, here's a question. Do you ever remember Dan Skillings taking a pull-up jumper before? That's the time to try it out for the first time? Up 3? Look, it's well documented, Keegan. I do not love the 15 to 17 foot jumper. But I don't hate it from like Jizzle and Day because they've made them. I've seen them make a bunch of those shots. Like, all right, I don't love it, but it goes in quite a bit.
It's that Patrick Ewing in the timeout huddle. Do you practice that shot? Have you ever taken that shot?
What are you doing? Can you make any sense of it? Make sense of it for me, Keegan. It doesn't make sense to me.
If you can't make sense of it, I can't. You're the moneymaker here.
You're right.
Look at the big brain on Chad.
I got theories, but we're not talking about those theories live on here.
That should be a level of subscription to Bearcat Journal is you get to stay in for when we stop hitting record.
The post-game show. You get post-game show access.
You can't talk or anything, but you can listen to what we say.
What's the cost of that? Like $100 a month?
See, now we're wheeling and dealing.
What's the cost? How many of you guys would pay $100 a month to get post-game show access?
A post-show access. Post-show,
yeah, post-game show, like post-show.
Yeah.
Him trailing his man on defense until he runs right into a screen reminds me of a cartoon. Absolutely. Like if Wile E. Coyote was a basketball cartoon, Dan would be Wile E. Coyote. Whack! And the Roadrunner's just standing there like, ha ha ha. Do you know who Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner are, Keegan?
Yeah. Boomerang, dude.
Oh, God. Terry said the same exact thing. I've never seen Dan take that shot in my life. I don't recall ever, even in pickup games that I've seen hundreds of. I don't recall Dan ever pulling up from 15 and showing us his silky smooth mid-range game. Sean, I think Dan would be better playing the 3 than he is playing the 2. And he's been playing the 2. Like, I think that has been a disaster. I guess Bram has been going back and watching stuff. Seamus is on the bench with 12:43 reaching his shoulder. He thinks it was 14-18 to help on a box out with the Iowa State big. Appreciate that. I'll do some digging on that tomorrow. And by the time we reconvene for the BBP on Monday night, hopefully I'll have an answer on where it is. Jason K would pay for it. The problem is none of you bastards could take it and post it on competitors. It would be, if you're in the club, you're in the club. I would need confirmation.
You'd need an NDA.
Oh, yeah.
You'd make
an
him sign
NDA.
an NDA.
And if I saw anything get out, like, whoever's guilty is gone. $100 a month, Danny. $100 a month, not just $100. Yeah. You're right, Steve. This is the problem. UC needs Dan to play well down the stretch to make the tournament. Have we talked about Page's injury? Somebody said they thought he got like kneed or hit somewhere in the thigh, maybe groin area. I wonder if it's like a thigh bruise, thigh contusion, something along those lines. I have not really heard any specific details about that yet. No. Last two, CJ Frederick. Well, I guess that counts as Page's time. He played technically no minutes. He was in briefly, got hurt, fouled, left the game, didn't see him again. I don't know that there's a whole lot to say. CJ played 2 minutes and was -4. We might be seeing a lot more of CJ Frederick soon, depending on the situation with CMOS. Jason, I heard somebody say they thought it was a nut shot on Page, but I didn't see it, so I'm not going to wax poetically on what it might be. Yeah. Guys, that must have been a hell of a nut shot if it was, because guys usually that's one of those and then 2 minutes later you come back.
You think you're going to throw up, but then you're fine.
Yeah. That's about all I got. How about you? Popped the ball.
That's all I got.
Oh.
You should be banned.
I don't even want to think about that. All right, guys, there you go. Keegan's got to get to work and write a recap. So we're going to let him go and handle it. Bearcats lose 81-70. Back at it Wednesday night in Morgantown. The BBP will be live on Monday. We're still deciding what to do with the BCJ pod this week. We are either going to go after the game and combine it with this show on Wednesday night, or we're going to do this show Wednesday night and then do the BCJ pod on Thursday. Waiting to hear what's best for Dave and his schedule. So we'll be here. You know that. You can always find us. Thanks to Keegan for filling in. We'll see you next time. That's The Aftermath, brought to you by Mio's Pizza, live from the Cincy Light Studios, right here on BearcatJournal.com.